Hi guys, thanks for watching another video of mine, and today I'd like to talk to you about interviewing. I've done a lot of interviews myself, or being interviewed, or interviewing others, and I'd like to share with you some ideas that helped me personally, and I'm hoping that it will help you as well. The first one that I'd like to mention is when you are interviewing for a position at a company, this is your chance to shine. So this is an opportunity for you to be energetic, upbeat, and just basically cheery in the good way, not really being hyperactive, but being really upbeat. And there are of course different ways how you can go about it. What helps me, and this might sound funny, but if I'm going for an interview, I'll turn on music in my car and I'm just gonna sing and just start talking and just basically kind of sort of warm up for the interview, so that when I'm actually in the interview, I'm all upbeat already and ready to go. The next one, and sometimes sounds so funny, but on occasion when I am interviewing people, they are not really clear about why they are applying for the position or what they think they can bring to the company. And the way how I would sum it up is, where do you want to be in 5 years? Do you want to be a senior developer? Do you want to be an architect? Do you want to focus more on the business side? Or do you want to be really, really techy and focus on, let's say, a specific product? And just sort of be able to articulate that, I think is very important, especially for more senior positions. I think that's super critical. When you are starting and you are out of college, you are probably just trying to get your hands and your head around, what do I want to do? What do I really like? You might have some ideas, and maybe if you do, there will be a good chance to just openly talk about them and see how they match to what the company is looking for. It's very much possible that they might have multiple open positions, and there might be one that actually fits a little bit better to you and what you want to do than the one that you're applying for. So be a little bit open about it within limits. You definitely don't want to be saying, oh, I really like server-side technologies when you're applying for a JavaScript developer position, but just keep it in your head to sort of see how the match works for you. The next one, and I think it's fairly important, at least for me when I'm interviewing someone, is to see that they're actually interested in the position. And one way to tell that they are really interested and curious about it is, are they asking me questions? Because when you're interviewing for a developer position, actually I would say for any position, but since this is a video blog about developers and development, let's talk about developers. So when you're applying for a position and you are in an interview and you are being asked all kinds of questions, also feel free to ask the company representatives or the interviewers questions as well, because you are interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. It's sort of both, it has to work both ways. So ask about how old is their code base, how are they maintaining it, how big are the teams, what kind of project management practice are they using? Are they using pure waterfall, which you will not see that much already these days, or agile, some kind of flavor of that, and sort of probe around, is this a good environment to work at? Because you can find the positions in many companies, but some of them are probably a little bit better than others when it comes to enjoying what you do. So keep that in mind, and next time you come to an interview, ask some curious questions. You'll score actually a point, I think, with the interviewers when you do that. The next one is a big one. Don't exaggerate your skills. When I look at someone's resume and I see that they have XYZ skill, and I start asking about it, and they will start replying back to me, oh, I just kind of work with this for 2 months and on the side, it sort of makes me question the rest of the resume. So make sure that whatever you put in the resume, you can actually stand behind it and you can really speak well about it. So it might not be necessarily just the skill set or the experiences that are pertinent to that position. People might just ask you about anything that's on that resume. So keep that in mind and just be careful what you put in. Okay, next one, resume itself. There are different formats how you can do your resume. Some people use colors and all that, and that's all perfectly fine. But few things that kind of bug me, and as one specifically is when I have a senior developer or an architect that's applying for a position, and their resume is this thick. It's 20 pages. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but let's say it's 5-10 pages of things that they have done 20 years ago. Well, there's probably a good way to sum it up in the resume summary rather than listing every little thing that you have ever done. A, I'm not gonna look at it, and B, I'm just gonna sometimes just glance over it actually and say, wow, I need someone that's more succinct than this. So my suggestion would be, make your resume maybe 3 pages long, summarize anything beyond that. I would probably not go beyond 5 years because technology change, skills that are needed change. So anything beyond that, I would sort of put as a sort of big summary and just leave it at that, and just really focus on your most recent experience, because that's what an employer is going to be looking for rather than something that you have done 20 years ago. Next one is willingness to learn. So this sort of tells me, is this just a 9-to-5 job for you, or is this a passion for you? And my preference, of course, is going to be someone that's very passionate about what they do, because they love it, they'll dig in, they'll be really curious. Someone that's 9-to-5 might have some of that, but I start questioning about, are they really into it? So one of the things that tells me that is your willingness to learn. And how do I ask about it? Well, I'll ask about, what have you read recently and what do you think about it? It might be a book, it might be an article, or a simple question of, how do you stay up to date? And I'll get a variety of different answers to that. Sometimes people will just say, oh, I love this book, and this is what I loved about it, this is what I didn't like about it, and this is why I picked to read it. But then I might have someone else that just tells me, oh, I just go to Stack Overflow and I'll just look around and look for my problems that I need to solve, and that's about it. When I hear someone say that, I'm sort of starting to wonder about how really up to date they are. Software development is an area where people constantly have to learn and need to be up to date. And if someone is not doing that and they have been at one position for a very long time using the same technology and being a team of 1 or 2, their growth is not going to be as strong as someone who has been on a bigger team, learning new technologies, experimenting on their own or within the company. And so a lot of these things sort of tell me how well driven that person is. So keep that in mind, and don't think that interviewing is something that you do just one point in time. This is something that you have to do throughout your career. Keep up to date, learn new things, be inquisitive, go to seminars, conferences, what have you, but just learn. Otherwise, you're gonna become obsolete. It's as simple as that. Okay, I have slightly touched on this one before. This is about your strengths and desires and what you want to do. And it sort of shows through your past work, but it doesn't necessarily have to drive where you're going forward. But have some kind of an explanation if you are trying to make, 90-degree turn and suddenly you're going from, pure coder to being more interested in business, for example. Give interviewers some kind of a context on why you're making these changes and why you are choosing a position that perhaps is slightly different than what you have been doing. The other thing with your strengths and what you desire to do is when I have someone who perhaps has been an architect or in some lead role and now they're applying for a senior developer position, they might be overqualified for what we are trying to fill for a position. And it's sort of I start questioning why are doing these choices, what has been happening in the previous position that they were at. So have a good explanation when you are making these sudden moves into something that is not necessarily expected. And then the other thing that's sort of tied to this is when I see someone whose resume shows that they have changed their job every 1 or 2 years, again, I start questioning, is this someone that I really want to invest time and money into if I know that they are going to change their job again and they will leave the company in a very short period of time? So 5 years, 3 to 5 years is something probably what I would expect at minimum. But if it's 1 or 2 years, are they jumping around, or do they have conflicts or problems with the previous employers? I don't know, but it's sort of, again, something that I'm gonna start thinking about. Now, one funny one, TMI, too much information. I've had candidates that would share a little bit too much. And when that starts happening, the entire interview just goes down the tube, and you have just sort of lost it. So be careful what you share, so that you don't regret it later. Some of the examples that I have seen is I had a candidate that started talking about their personal hygiene and they take a shower every day. Well, is that something that you really need to share? Next one, social media. When you are applying for a position, you have to expect that your potential employer is going to look around and see what you have been up to. And it could be good or it can be bad, but I think you can sort of take it to your advantage and have some kind of a social media presence. That can be having presentations that you have done and have them recorded, participate in some open source projects, or just create some kind of project on your own and have that open so that people can look at the code you wrote. All kinds of things you can do to take an advantage of social media, so that people can easily find who you are and what you have done in the past. All right, next one, and I promise this is the last one. Be prepared for different types of interviews. It can be one-to-one, which I think most people are comfortable with the most, but it could be also one-to-many, where you are together with 4 or 5 other people that are interviewing you, and that can be a little scary because people start asking questions left and right, and it sort of sometimes can feel like interrogation even though it is not. But I think it sort of scares people. I've had one candidate that almost physically shrank in the chair because he was so uncomfortable with it, and because some of the questions were a little bit over his head. So just be prepared that it might not be one single interview. It can be multiple interviews on the same day, perhaps, and it can be with multiple people. And the other thing to expect is, I do that a lot, is it's not going to be just question answer, either me asking you or you asking me, but I'm going to actually ask you for a whiteboard exercise. I'll give you some kind of a problem to solve, and I'll be looking at your problem-solving skills, how you interact with me, what questions you ask, and whether you are comfortable with creating a design and do some analysis, or whether you are just doing purely coding and you don't really feel comfortable with the rest. And not that necessarily either is good or bad, but it tells me where a person is with their skill set, what position they would be fitting the best. So be prepared that it will be a variety of different formats, and you should feel comfortable with them, so that you don't get all confused and sort of blank out. That's probably the worst thing you can do. But it can happen. And if it does, it's not the end of the world. It's a learning experience. So even if you don't get the job that you have been interviewing for, just keep that on a positive note and just think about it as a learning opportunity. And even ask the interviewers, was that something that I could have done better, or is that something that was a sort of a turn-off point, what have you? Just so that you can learn and you can apply for your next interview. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like my videos, and talk to you later. See ya.